Hey, cocktail friends. This week has been kind of shitty. So, I'm going to make a cocktail that a friend of mine requested I do a video of. It is called the Bee's Knees. And it's spring, so it's the perfect time to do this. I'm also going to take this opportunity to remind you that these little weeds, these little dandelion weeds, they're bee food. Don't fucking spray your dandelions with pesticide. No Roundup, no bullshit. If you don't want them, pull them by hand. Because these are some of the first flowers in spring, and bees need them to live and keep making delicious things that we like honey and, oh, I don't know, pollinating all of the fruit and vegetable crops that we rely on to survive as a species. So, stop fucking poisoning your dandelions. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, Bee's Knees is a really easy cocktail. It requires 3 ingredients. Gin, number one. I'm going to use the Empress because this is a really good gin, and I think it's going to make a really awesome Bee's Knees cocktail. If you didn't watch my video on the Empress, please go back and watch it because it's really just a cool gin. Ingredient number 2, lemon juice. You can either do fresh squeezed or you can do store-bought. Does not matter. And last ingredient is honey syrup. So honey syrup is the stupidest, easiest thing you can make. You know how if you have a bottle of honey that's been like sitting for a while and it gets all crystally at the bottom, and then you're like, I can't use this, it won't come out. This is your chance to make honey syrup. So we had about an inch worth of kind of crystallized honey at the bottom of this honey bear, and we poured in an equal amount of boiling water. And then put the cap back on, shook it up, and you have honey syrup. And now it just stays in this beautiful liquid form. You get the flavor of honey. It's literally just honey and water, but you want to use boiling water to make sure that honey incorporates into the water. Why don't you just put honey straight into a cocktail? Because if you know anything about chemistry, you know that the way that honey crystal molecules are done, they vibrate at a certain frequency. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mixologist. I don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, you can't mix honey into a cold drink and expect it to dissolve properly. That's why we use things like simple syrup. So that's why we make honey syrup, which is basically a simple syrup made with honey. Easy enough? Cool. So for our Bee's Knees cocktail, I'm going to do 3/4 ounce of honey syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, and 2 ounces of gin. And you can use any gin for this. So the Bee's Knees is actually a Prohibition era cocktail that was basically designed to cover up the taste of the really shitty bathtub gin that people were making during Prohibition. And honey syrup will do that for you. 2 ounces of gin. Things that go on bottles and the correct lids. And we'll give that a shake. Ugh, look at that gorgeous color. It's like lavender. Now, I am extra, and I went out and bought actually some honeycomb so I could use it as a garnish. I think it's going to make it a little bit too sweet, but I couldn't resist because that's the kind of basic bitch I am. So our cocktail in the glass. Typically you'd serve this in a coupe, which is like kind of like a martini glass, but it's more rounded instead of like a triangle. And I don't have one of those. Lastly, if you've got it, if you don't have it, no big deal. I'm going to peel off a little bit of lemon peel here. Oh god, this is not the peeler I normally use. And I'm just going to give it a little over the top, and then I'm going to rest this on the rim. And it's going to fall directly into the drink because that's how life is. Mostly this lemon peel is there for the aromatics, getting that really nice lemony scent into your nose before you take a sip. Oh God, this is delicious. Um, the lemon and the honey play really nicely. Um, I would say it's kind of like a cold version of a hot toddy, but with gin instead of brandy, um, and cool and refreshing. It's very sweet, but the lemon really, like the lemon juice and the lemon peel, if you've got it in there, really like brighten it up so the sweetness isn't overwhelming. It's just this really nice, like forward honey sweetness, and then that bright citrusy flavors. So, a bee's knees is the bee's knees. It's an excellent cocktail, and I highly recommend it for spring. Um, Another word on dandelions. I said I wouldn't talk about them anymore, but I'm going to talk about them some more. Today, I just finished racking my dandelion wine that I'm making. So I did about 3 quarts of dandelion heads, and I pulled the petals out because you don't want any green. And those have been soaking in a bunch of water for like 3 days. I finally got my champagne yeast in the mail yesterday, and this morning I managed to finish getting everything mixed up. And in about 2 to 3 months, I should have dandelion wine to share with all of you, metaphorically speaking. If you want to make dandelion wine, there is a ton of really good recipes online. I strongly encourage you to check them out. It's kind of a fun little project. It does require a little bit of equipment. I bought some half-gallon mason jar. They're like these little rubber seals that go when it gets too much pressure built up inside. So hopefully those work. Else I'm going to have a very sugary, sticky mess in my basement when I go down to check on them. But yeah, I'll let you know how the dandelion wine turns out. I'm going to take the rest of these dandelion heads. I'm going to pull out all of the petals and dry them, and I'm going to also make dandelion tea. You can use the leaves and the petals for the tea, but again, you don't want to use the little green part on the underside because that can make it really bitter. This episode went way off the rails, in a manner of speaking. It's all loosely related. But bee's knees cocktail, get you some gin. It doesn't even have to be good gin. This cocktail was designed for shitty gin. Find the worst gin and make yourself a good cocktail out of it. Be well, take care of your mental, emotional, physical well-being, and I'll see you again soon.